Praises to Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawashi, bahasham, Kodash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that rule well, labor in the word and doctrine. Shalom and peace. May that be unto the elect of the nation of Israel. So this is 2 Maccabees chapter 6. In fact, that's the meat of it. Let's preface it with this scripture here. First, Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 9. The thing that hath been, it is that which shall be done. It is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. Right, now this is, of course, a reincarnation scripture to those in the knowledge. However, taking on its face value, the thing, more generalized, the thing that hath been. And if we reapply it to the fullness, reincarnation, the man that hath been, right, let's prove it. Ecclesiastes 6 and 10. That which hath been is named already. Right, so we've just read about the thing that hath been. Right, that which hath been is named already, and it is known that it is man. Neither may contend with him that is mightier than he. So when you read it in context now, it's talking about the man that hath been is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there's no new man under the sun. Right, so that's why events seem to, people say history repeats itself. Because the Lord set up certain men to do certain things in a recurring or a cyclical time frame, or a cyclical pattern rather. Okay, so you're going to have the righteous, the prophets, them trying to strive. You're going to have certain of one nation doing a similar thing, certain of other nation having a similar thing, right? Because why? Because the men come back, and women. Men just means, in that context, men is just dealing with humans. So now, getting into it, 2 Maccabees chapter 6 and verse, we'll start at 6. Neither was it lawful for man to keep Sabbath days or ancient fasts or to profess himself at all to be a Jew. Okay, so it wasn't lawful. Now that doesn't mean according to our law, it means the strange laws, the strange religions, customs of the land. Right, so the Greco customs said, right, you can't be an Israelite anymore. You can't be a Jew. You can't keep the Sabbath. You can't keep the fast, the feasts. Right, you can't keep this, you can't keep that. So all the customs, all the culture was effectively eradicated for the most part. And that's a process called Hellenization. Right, turning it into hell, turning it into Greek. Right, the Greek word for Greek is Hellene. And that could mean someone that descends from the people of the Greeks, or it could mean someone that became like unto the Greeks, which is what a lot of our people did. You've got Hellene, you've got Hellenistes. Right, so you've got the idea of taking on their language but still understanding that you're an Israelite, and you've got the idea of taking on their customs, their manner of worship. Okay, so this is a scripture we often go to prove who are the Gentiles in the New Testament. Also, we go into this to say, well, what's the missing history? The Greek Empire. So you've got scriptures about the Egyptian captivity, got scripture about Assyria, Babylon, Persia, Rome. So where's Greece? Well, Greece, the majority of it is in the Maccabees, scriptures, 1st and 2nd. Right, now there's certain hints at it. For example, John 10. That's another reason you'd be able to prove that the Apocrypha is valid. John 10 and 22, and it was at Jerusalem the feast of dedication, and it was winter. Right, so going to the law, or going to anywhere in the scripture, and find the feast of dedication from winter. You'll find out through research that came from the book of Maccabees, or it came from the time period of the Maccabees. So 2 Maccabees 6 and 6 once more. Neither was it lawful for a man to keep Sabbath days or ancient fasts, or to profess himself at all to be a Jew. Obviously, we're reading halfway through here. Verse 7 now. And in the day of the king's birth, right, so birthdays, another heathen custom, right, the Greeks kept it. If I'm not mistaken, Pharaoh kept it. Genesis 40 and 20, and it came to pass the third day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, that he made a feast unto all his servants, and he lifted up the head of the chief butler and of the chief baker among his servants. And then, this is what I was thinking as well. Yeah, Matthew 14:6. But when Herod's birthday was kept, the daughter of Herodias danced before them and pleased Herod. Right, so birthday, you see. Also there, Mark 6. Right, so why don't we read about any of the prophets, having a birthday bash? Because it's not our custom, right? We read about it in Egypt, read about it in Rome, and now we're about to read about it in the Greek captivity. Verse 7, and in the day of the king's birth every month. So every month. So they might keep it, according to their calendar, let's say it was his birthday on the 7th. Right, the 7th of every month. That's some radical birthday celebration. Right, it's not just once a year on that month and that day, it's every month. Right, so the 7th, then it comes around the 7th. So verse 7, and in the day of the king's birth, every month, and were brought by better constraint to eat of the sacrifices. And when the feast of Bacchus was kept, the Jews were compelled to go in procession to Bacchus, carrying ivy. Let's read procession. What does that mean? Set of persons walking or riding formally or with ceremonious solemnity. A religious procession. Triumphal entry of the Messiah into Jerusalem. Procession, from proceed. Right, so to go to the same place together. Right, carrying ivy. Verse 8, moreover there went out a decree to the neighbor cities of the heathen by the suggestion of Ptolemy against the Jews, that they should observe the same fashions and be partakers of their sacrifices. So it might seem, it's inclusive, it's for everybody. But if you have a law that tells you can't sacrifice this animal, for example, a pig would be unclean. That was a famed event in when the Greeks came along. Sacrificed a pig, a swine, unto their idol. That was a significant event. All right, so it sounds nice. Come on, man, we'll all be one, we'll all be together. But you're not really realizing it's the detriment of one people, that their autonomy and their independence is directly tied to their worship. So we got conquered by Alexander, and he was pretty lenient, but when under Antiochus Epiphanes, that's when it really all went off. Okay, and we really went off, through force. Be partakers of their sacrifices, verse 9. And whoso would not conform themselves to the manners of the Gentiles should be put to death. Then might a man have seen their present misery. For there are 2 women brought who had circumcised their children, which is our custom, whom when they had openly led round about the city, the babes handing at their breasts, they cast them down headlong from the wall. Right, so as it was written in the prophecy, and no regard for the young or the old. For the women, the weaker vessel, they don't care. The devils. Now we're looking at Bacchanalia, which is the feast of Bacchus, which at one time the Israelites, the Jews, were forced to keep. So the Bacchanalia were unofficial, privately funded, popular Roman festivals of Bacchus. Am I tripping? Hold on. This is Roman, but that is a Greek god, so now I'm confused. Is this the right one? Let's bear with me. All right. Okay. So Bacchus. Yeah, okay. Bacchus is what the Greeks call him, but the Romans adopted a lot of stuff from the Greeks. They also adopted a lot of the ancient art from the Greeks. There's a quote, I was watching a documentary recently, and there was a quote that the the other people express it by art, their marvelous works, and the Romans are meant to push that out by their senate, by their government, right? So they were a lot for the start. They weren't really about art. Then they discovered Hellenistic art, a lot of the Hellenistic gods as well. That's why you'll see, so I was mistaken. I believe the Greeks did call it Dionysus, but the Romans then, adapted, jumped onto it and called it Bacchanalia. So he's known as Bacchus by the Greeks. Look, and then this is the sort of weird naked art that they push out. This they push out as Greek, but then the Romans did the same similar style. They've got a Hellenistic piece that they claim is David. King David. That's not King David. See if we can find out about the worship and festivals in Greece, then we'll hit the Roman one. Right, Dionysus worship became firmly established by the 7th century BC. It may have been worshipped as early as 1500 to 100 BC by Mycenaean Greeks. And these are the sources there. That's the thing, Wikipedia, it can be edited, but people can also drop sources, so you can look that up. If you want to get more into this, you click on that, and it'll take you to the article. Cool. Alright, so there's a few for this, Bacchus. All of them there. I want to find where it says exactly what happens. Bear with me. I might have to hit the Roman one. Right, cool, we'll read this. Here we are. Bacchanalia said in Rome, the most well-known festivals of Bacchus were the Bacchanalia, based on the earlier Greek Dionysia or Dionysia festivals. These Bacchic rituals were said to have included homophagic practices, which goes into eating raw flesh, such as pulling live animals apart and eating the whole of them raw. This practice served not only as a reenactment of the infant death and rebirth of Bacchus, but also as a means by which the Bacchic practitioners produced enthusiasm, etymologically, to let a god enter the practitioner's body. Yo! Is that what that means? Learning on the job, man. Enthusiasm. In Theos. Man. Never did I know that. That's very interesting. And Theos. Divinely inspired. Okay. Right, originally restricted to women and held only 3 times a year. The drunken, disinhabited men and women of all ages and social classes cavorted in a sexual free-for-all 5 times a month. You know what that sounds to me? That sounds like the Benjamite Bacchanalia with jerk chicken, man, known as the carnival. Right, what do you have? Maybe it didn't start off as that, but more time, you have drunken, disinhibited men. I think I said disinhabited. Disinhibited men and women of all ages. So you've got young men and women from the time of becoming a young man or a young woman, the time of 12, 11. And then you've got all the way up to 30s, 40s, 50s. Obviously, it tends to be most of the younger generation that are the disinhibited ones. Of all social classes, you have your typical working class Jakes, E's, your middle class, so everyone's there. And like I said earlier, a procession. You know, so it's a drunken procession. So now we used to get, forced into this. You had to go into a drunken. Now we don't eat raw flesh. Well, I don't partake in carnival anyway. But Jake doesn't tend to eat raw flesh. But there will be, drunkenly patrolling the streets. You also have Juve morning, which I think that goes back to the French, which means morning or good morning, or day something. Because bonjour means bonjour, good day. So je vais. Not sure what that means, but it's something to do with the day. Early in the morning, about 4, 5, 6 a.m. in the morning, they get up. Yeah, everyone's drinking. Popping pills and shit. It's crazy. But this is basically, Bacchanalia in another form. And who they're not necessarily worshipping Bacchus. Some are worshipping Rastafari. A lot of them. Some are just worshipping themselves, worshipping this man's system. So it's very similar. So there's nothing new under the sun. These people are enthused. So I'll read that, I'll finish up. How we started, Ecclesiastes 1:9. The thing that hath been is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there's no new thing under the sun. Giving all praises to Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawashi, bahasham, Shalom.